Hey folks, Allison here. Well, I want to talk to you today about what it tells us in the Bible to rejoice with those who are rejoicing. All right, it says to weep with those who are weeping, but to rejoice with those who are rejoicing. Now, if you happen to be in a stage where you're weeping, it can be really hard to do that. All right, if you're sad, I've often seen, let's say somebody loses a child through miscarriage. It's very hard to rejoice with somebody who's having a child, right? It's just kind of a natural thing, all right? We can't help but, if we're feeling one particular loss. But there is a reason that Jesus tells us to do that, and there's tremendous psychological and spiritual benefit to cultivating the ability to rejoice with those who are rejoicing, even when you're suffering, right? I think we have a problem doing that, not just because we're sad, maybe we're in a state of real deep sadness, but sometimes because we grew up in a family situation where there wasn't enough affirmation to go around. If you find that you're in a family where there's a lot of sibling rivalry, that usually develops because maybe the parents are distracted, or maybe there's alcoholism, or maybe whatever it is, maybe there's favoritism. So there's a perception sometimes we grow up with, and it becomes a paradigm that we kind of view the world through, that there's only so much, and if somebody else gets it, that's less for me. And that's not really true. Now, obviously, sometimes it might be true. There's 4 ice cream pops. If somebody gets 3, that's different. But in general, when I'm talking about like kind of blessings and attention or love from our parents or whatever, sometimes it feels that way. So we become jealous. We don't even realize it, that they become, because it's really kind of a defensive mechanism that, if I get happy about my sister getting this, well, then it means I'm not going to get something. And that may not be true. In most cases, it's really not. Sometimes, parents love their children in different ways because of the different needs of the children. But like I said, sometimes there's not enough to go around. I think of, the show Everybody Loves Raymond. There's so much rivalry because Robert never felt that he had as much love as Raymond. And then there was a really funny episode where Raymond comes over and they praise Robert, and he leaves, and Robert comes over and they praise Raymond. So they're both always, in this rivalry. So take a look at that in your life. Did you grow up feeling like that? If you might still in your adult years have a rivalry with your siblings. Like I said, that usually comes from a sense that if you get, I don't get. But if you can cultivate that ability to rejoice with someone who's rejoicing, because anything that's good comes from God, and it's a sign that God, of God's favor, not just on that person, but just God's favor in general, his goodness and his loving and generous nature. Now, suffering tends to come in seasons for most people. I've noticed that. Like there might be dark seasons in our lives, and then there might be, seasons where we're rejoicing. We think about Job, all right, that he was leading a great life, and then, the devil messed with him and everything kind of fell apart, and then God restored everything later on. Now, I know that some of you are probably saying, well, I don't feel like God's ever restored anything for me. He will. He will. And sometimes we don't experience it in this life. There are people who suffer more in this life. God is going to reward you in the next one. But if we can cultivate the ability to rejoice with someone who's rejoicing, we can share in their happiness, and it does spill over to us. I think that when we're envious or jealous, it can really, really zap our energy and make us feel, like I said, like victims, and that makes us feel really helpless. But if I can cultivate the ability to rejoice with somebody else when they're happy, I now can control my happiness, right? I can choose to be happy for their good fortune, and then pray and hope that God is going to bless me in a similar way, in a different way, or sometime in the future. But we actually make a decision to be happy for someone else. And that, believe me, there's a trickle effect in your own life that's going to happen. So I hope you find that helpful. Really take a look. If you do find that you come from a home and maybe you're still struggling with sibling rivalry, that maybe there was some lack of affirmation, there was something that was missing that made you perceive that. And sometimes it isn't, that you had terrible parents. Could be, I remember somebody who her brother had a brain tumor when he was a baby. So obviously a lot of the parents' attention went to the sick child, and even though the other children were healthy, maybe a little bit older, they were still children and couldn't really understand why mommy wasn't spending time with me. Maybe they can have an intellectual appreciation for that as an adult, but what kind of idea or paradigm rooted in as a child that if he gets the attention, then there's none for me. So they can't, a child, we believe something and we live out through that belief without realizing it. And, that's, in therapy, we can look at that, and then we have to really ask Jesus to heal those memories sometimes. Right, so I think it's a good thing to explore if you are in therapy. If you find that you're always feeling like a victim, or always feeling like everybody gets something and there's nothing for you, that's something to maybe bring into therapy and explore with a good Catholic therapist. So there is a link below this video for CatholicTherapist.com. Wonderful people listed there. I think you'll find it really helpful. Please like and share the video, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks. God bless you.